And we're back here once again with another episode of the MSK show, and this is going to be episode 379. So I hope you guys had a great day, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week that is ahead of you. And in this episode of the MSK show, I am going to be having a conversation with Douglas Ernst once again, and this is going to be his second appearance on the show because the last time he was on the show was literally at the beginning of the year. I think it was in February, actually. And then that episode, the last time you were on for your first appearance was episode 153. So it's been a little bit of time since then.
Time's flying.
Yeah, we were actually supposed to do this in November, but you had told me that you were going to be going on vacation or something like that to Japan. So
yeah, I went to a show in Tokyo with Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini. So Iconic Comics was in Tokyo for a show and got shown around by a whole bunch of really nice creators and a whole bunch of nice readers who were giving us gifts and taking us out to eat, grilled meat places and all sorts of stuff. So it was a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to another guy named Geekdom 101. He was also in Japan or Tokyo or whatever, and he said it's way different out there compared to living in the States. Just a whole different culture shock. Like, I heard there's like barely any crime there, if at all. The streets are clean. People are probably still people, but you wouldn't have to worry about going outside and getting stabbed by some crazy black guy who hates white people over there. That wouldn't happen. They would ship you out pretty quickly.
It was weird because I was taking the bus one day and it was going by these alleys, and the alleys looked like you could just sit down and have a picnic in the alley and just like eat your food in the alley. And then every day outside our hotel, we were in like an area where it is kind of like a party area for like younger people. It's by the Godzilla Hotel. And it could get a little like, it's definitely a party atmosphere, but not, it's not dangerous at night. I never felt like I was in danger. But in the morning, there was people that were always like hosing down the alley and like washing stuff and basically making like every single day, making sure their area was like washed and clean again or whatever. So I was just like, whoa, this is pretty cool. I've been to some cities where I don't think they've cleaned the alley in probably decades.
Man, that would be the same place in my city. These alleys look like they've been pretty much forgotten about for years. Like, man, you go into some of these areas over here, there's just trash everywhere because homeless people are there because they have nowhere else to go. Oh my God. I also told people this. I understand people get like on, I would say, what's the best terminology for it? I would say hard times. People fall on hard times. But from what I learned about homeless people is some of them aren't even really on hard times. They're just choosing to be like that. So like, when you were growing up, you kind of felt bad because you thought, hey, some bad stuff just happened. So they just ended up being that way. But it turns out, no, some of them are just crazy drug addicts and they just choose to be that way. Good Lord.
Yeah, I was recently talking to someone about that. So there's like different kinds of homelessness. So there are the people that like, oh, the economy got bad. I couldn't pay the mortgage. I lost my job. And now I just need a little bit of time to get on my feet, or I need a break. Then there's people that are just like straight up drug addicts and they've ruined their lives. Then there's people that have mental illness. And then there's some people that they're just like straight lazy, or I don't even know what, because I'll see them and they have like nice clothes and they look like almost obese, but they're just like sitting out there with a sign saying like anything will help. And I'm just like, you look like just a person who could be working in Walmart or whatever, but you just choose not to. So like, it's a weird situation where when I'm interacting with them, I try to be like, okay, where is this guy on the spectrum of homelessness?
Yeah, because you can never tell. Yeah,
because some people I legit I want to try and help them, and some people I'm like, I feel like you're just kind of want to just do nothing. You just want to collect money. So
yeah.
The
same thing happened for me. I was this past Sunday because I was like just in a second day of getting over a cold, because I had one of those like 2-day kind of colds where you get sick the first day and it was horrible. I was like, oh God. Then I woke up the next day, I was like, crap, I gotta go to work. Went to the bus stop, I get on, and this guy's just this homeless guy I've seen for years, probably since like 2019. Still, this is not a guy that is like, I wouldn't say mentally disturbed. He sounds like a pretty normal guy. And I always kind of wonder, why is this guy still in this kind of spot in his life? He's just on the bus, reading the Bible out. I think he was reading like John or something like that. And he was wearing, like you said, wearing some pretty decent clothes. He was wearing like this nice plaid shirt, wearing some nice pants. I'm like, why? I was just thinking in my head, why doesn't this person go and get a job? And I get it. Things are hard now. It's not like you can go in and get a paper application. That's not how it used to be anymore. But I've always looked at it like this. If times change and there's different ways of how to acquire a job or do anything like that, you got to adjust to the times. And I just don't give money to homeless people that are like that. I know you can work. I know you're just choosing not to. I can't do that. I can't well and good support that. But if you're someone that, you're hungry and you just fell on some bad times, I got no problem with that. But it's just,
Yeah.
I can't help guys that are like, we're sitting here busting our ass like every single week trying to make ends meet. So we're not homeless, and this guy's just fully able to work and choosing not to work. It's like I can't support you, man. Sorry about that.
I usually try and give like food to them instead of money, because where I live, there's actually like a lot of meth heads, and so
if you with heroin. There's a bunch of heroin addicts here, yeah.
So if I'm out and I'm like shopping and there's like a breakfast burrito, I'll get like a little breakfast burrito and like a orange juice or something like that. And I'll usually I'll give them that, because I'll be like, okay, I know they're going to eat it and they're not going to spend it like, on meth or something like that. So that's usually what I try to do most of the time.
Yeah, that's what I did. I noticed this lady was either on heroin or meth. We always say that's messed up around here. It's a joke for them, So I just gave her, how you go to the stores and you see like those $8.99 8-piece of chicken they have in those little plastic containers, kind of like these right here. So I just went and gave her that, and she was ecstatic. She was like, "Oh my God, I hadn't eaten in like 2 days. Thank you for that." I've not seen this woman for like, that was like beginning part of the year. That was like actually a month after I talked to you the last time, and I hadn't seen her. So hopefully she got her life together. I was thinking like, I left her and I was like, man, I really wanted to tell her, hey, you don't have to live like this. You can do better. And that's not one of those typical, like, that cringy line you hear on Twitter where people are like, just do better. I was like, you can actually do better with you. You don't have to sit here and beg for food and ask for money. That's kind of what I want to tell them. But like you said, you don't know where they are mentally, if they're going to snap on you or anything. And sometimes you can't even approach them because they stink so bad. You're like, oh God, I can't do it, man.
Yeah, there was one guy I used to talk to all the time, and he had a friend, and he was just like, hey, just give you a heads up. That guy's like chill like 90% of the time, but if you say the wrong thing, he'll stab you. And I was just like, okay, and because sometimes there's a lot of like crime like within the homeless community and stuff, especially when they're drug addicts, and they'll steal their sleeping bags and stuff like that, and they'll steal from each other. So yeah, you just got to be careful. But for the most part, I just like talking to people and getting their story, and just, I don't know, in my mind, it's like everybody's got a story. And sometimes people, like, there was one guy, he said to me, he was just like, basically, I appreciate that you just like sat down and just talked to me like a normal human being. And I would rather you almost like just talk to me like a normal dude, as opposed to just flipping like $1 at me and then just like walking away. So you never know.
Yeah, like today I had seen one that was like, it was a black guy in a little, looks like to be in one of those, like, not I say wheelchairs, but it's one of those like, not like strollers, but it's like one of those, like, you have the one seat and it's just like the bars to sit on, just, anything helps. And I was trying to think, like, how did it get to a point where did you have like no opportunities in your life to fix your life? Because those are things that I started thinking about. It's like, man, I've had a lot of opportunities in my life. Some I squandered, some I really capitalized on. And I try to think, because when people always say these things to me, they're always making it sound like these people just have no opportunities to do anything in a 24-hour span, in a year span, in 2-year span. It's like, how have you never capitalized on any opportunities, or even trying to make opportunities for yourself? Because, I was poor growing up. We made opportunities for ourselves. You just have to make it happen. People always ask, like, how do you do it? I don't know. You just kind of do. Like, when people say things like, why don't you want to help someone if they have this going on? It's like, well, I can really help myself. We make it happen. Like that whole food stamp situation that happened in America, because you weren't here for a little bit, but the food stamps got cut off for a little bit. And then you have people like crying about, hey, I'm not going to get money for my kids. It's like, well, we barely have money for it. We make it happen. And we're the ones helping you do that. And you guys get more money for it than we do. Like today, I was at the store and I spent like $70 on food. Usually it's like 90, depending on like taxes and what else I buy extra that I might need. But, this notion that people commonly have with some of these people is like they have to improve, like, and even suggesting that they should improve their life and try to get things better and get on track. You're just treated like you punched their grandma in the face or something. It's like, hey, I would like if you're at this point in life, but I would also like if you kind of got better and try to move up in the world. Like, I would imagine most of them don't want to be like that, like the sane ones without mental illnesses. I would hope to believe that, but you never know, man.
Yeah, I just think with a lot of people, like over the course of time, they start tying themselves in so many intellectual and spiritual knots that at some point in
Yeah.
time you have so many that it's like you don't even know where to begin to start untying them or something. And then some people are just like they basically give up. And so it's just like this sad situation where actually if you did want to help them, they would require like almost one-on-one attention over a consistent amount of time. And basically like the systems that are set up for them, it's usually they can't offer the amount of like one-on-one care that it would
Yeah.
take to
Yeah.
get that person to a place where they're like finally like up on their feet and able to do whatever. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah, it's weird because you also learn of how much distaste they actually have for taxpayers. It's so weird because do they know that they get to have food because we're working? Oh, I just it's like that it's like that light bulb that goes off. It's like that epiphany people should have. It's like, wait a minute, I should be feeling grateful I get this because they're helping me, you know? And it doesn't feel like that anymore. It's like, no, I'm owed this. It's like no one's owed anything in the world. You have to kind of work for that. But they're thinking like, hey, hey, I have 3 kids, I can't afford them. It's like, well, how do other people do it then?
Right.
Because it's like we can't really do it, guys. It's really hard out here, So this notion that you should just be giving all this stuff to them for free, I never looked at it that way. I always looked at it like us giving them more money hasn't really fixed any problem because that's the typical response of I don't know if it's Republicans or Democrats, but it's like that's mostly a Democrat position. If you just give them more money, it'll just fix the problem. And it's like not really, not at all, because we've had that for most of my life, and it's not fixed shit, honestly. Actually, there's more people on it now than there used to be, so that's not fixed anything. But you know how they like to talk, in like these grand neos thing of like, no, if everyone had the exact amount of resources, then it would work out great. And it's like, no, that's not how it works because people don't think like that. Their mindset, I truly believe it would work in a fantasy utopia land, but we're not in a fantasy utopia land. People have all different types of minds about how they even look at things. Like someone could perceive the ocean a different way. It's just how it works. All of us have different ways we look at things. I've never got that with their mindset. It just can't work in reality. It just doesn't,
And I saw a recent interview with Elon Musk, and he was talking about California, where a lot of these organizations and nonprofits, and even the ones that are linked with the government, they actually have an incentive because they get more money the more people that are homeless.
Yeah,
so they have
he's
this
right,
perverse incentive to like almost keep them in a zombie-like state of being, where it's like they're not dying, but they're just in this weird state where it just keeps going up because for each person that is homeless, I don't know the exact number, but he was basically saying like it's like $1 million more in taxpayer revenue that is cycled to that element of the government or the nonprofit organization or whatever. And so the officials who are basically corrupt kind of encourage the cops to not get the drugs off the street because they're monetarily benefiting from this problem that in theory they want to fix, but it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So at some point in time, you have to be like, okay, well, if the problem keeps getting worse, like something about the underlying premise is wrong here, and we should do something differently. But they always just say like, no, just increase the money hose, like turn it into a fire hydrant. We need more money. And so that's what they keep doing over and over again. But again, like that one-on-one back in the day, way back in the day, was like essentially like churches. They were the ones that would deal with like homelessness or like widows and all sorts of, abandoned children and taking in like orphans and all this sort of stuff. And no matter what you think about like the churches and religion or whatever, but that's where you get that one-on-one individual attention on somebody that in my mind, I think most of the time they really need, especially if they were on drugs or alcohol.
Yeah, I just think that, in places like California, things are never going to change unless there is a complete just rehaul and restructure of the people in charge. Like there's people out there still with Gavin Newsom 2028 in their bio. It's like I don't know what else more this guy could do potentially, possibly that would make someone go, "Hey, this is not a good person." And it's crazy. I actually think if you did get another Democrat in there, because they're not going to let a Republican be in there, it's just not going to happen for California. There has to be better Democrats than that guy. There has to be, unless we're literally just at the end time where all of them are just humongous pieces of garbage. There has to be better than that guy. There has to be, right, people? I hope, because this guy didn't even know that. You remember that fire that happened, that inferno that happened in LA? This guy didn't even know that the canal, all that water goes through, he didn't even know it was empty. He was like, why don't we have water in the fire hydrants? The canal is empty. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and there's a video of him when they were interviewing him right afterwards, and he was talking about these like I don't know, it was like basically like foreign entities or whatever that would come up and buy the property because they wanted to take the homes that were, family homes and essentially build like, condos or hotels or whatever on them. And he had this look on his face where he was like, like he was like really happy that it basically fueled like conspiracy theorists because you're like, wait a second, like they're not allowing these people to even go back to like the rubble to search through it, and then they're slow rolling their ability to rebuild on this land with all sorts of like regulations, and they're not like waiving stuff. But then he's like talking about these like entities that would come in and gobble up the land and then build hotels on it, but he's like really like happy about it. And it was like super creepy. The guy in general, I know I'm biased, but he gives me sort of American Psycho vibes. And
he gives me what the girls say these days. Like he gives me the ick. Yeah, he just doesn't give me. He give me the ick. Oh, this guy looks like a terrible person. Like, how do you function the way he functions? Like wasn't he was given like all this money for like he was giving out fucking hell, I forgot the amount of number, I forgot the number, but I remember it was this number was given to fix the homelessness crisis in California. He was asked where the money went, didn't know. It's like that guy wants to be president. You guys understand, watching this on the playback, he wants to be president. He didn't even know where billions of dollars went.
Right. And well, he probably knows because it goes to his friends and like
right. Yeah, he knows where it's at,
but
it's the politician thing. No, I mean, I don't know where it went. It may have the dog ate it. Yeah, the dog ate billions of dollars. What a lucky dog.
He was also the same guy during COVID who was locking down all these small businesses while simultaneously going to these like Michelin star, French Laundry, wine country restaurants and all this sort of stuff. So it's like, during COVID, he was telling his own voters who refused to turn against him, like, now you got to stay inside. You can't make a living. You have to just like basically shut down your business. And then all these pictures are showing up of him eating like escargot or, who knows what at these like lavish restaurants. Where it's like, they'll open just for you, but everybody else, now you can't even go on the beach. We'll arrest you if you're on the beach.
Oh, and speaking of that, the homeowner thing you talked about and the whole rubble thing, this is why I know all that shit is a scam with the insurance companies. Because all these people were paying for this like fire insurance or whatever insurance that should cover you if your home would be like destroyed like that. Magically, they can't do it. It's like, you guys understand what a scam is, right? You're paying so you can get a benefit, and if they don't give you the money that you've been paying into, well, you got scammed. That's why people think insurance is a scam. Like, imagine that all these nice houses, people are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year to have this safety net of money that could come in just in case anything bad like that would have happened, and they can't get the money. It's like, that's a scam. That company should literally be sued into oblivion, but they won't do it because it's California and you're allowed to do that here. It's freaking insane, man.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you when somebody becomes an ideologue that no amount of evidence, no matter how hard it slaps them in the face or, bonks them on the head or whatever, like will change their mind. They will always find a way to twist it into, like, well, there was some outside circumstance that, this is why this happened or that. And you're just like, your entire state is controlled by little Gavin Newsoms all over the place. They all think the same, and your state keeps basically like pile driving itself into the ground and just becoming worse and worse and worse. But yet you still believe in the ideology that produced all of that. Like, something is clearly, I don't know what it would take for them to like switch gears.
Maybe hell freezing over, which probably never gonna happen. So we're gonna be like this for a long time. Actually, I remember San Diego became like the highest expensive city in the world, at least in the United States. It's like, man, because the city of Manhattan had that title for God knows how long. And that's crazy that San Diego is gonna be the highest cost of living city. And it's like, I've been to San Diego. It's very fun out there, but I could imagine, like, I think it was like $2,000 for rent out there, just rent alone. That's not even utilities. Like this
Right.
small apartment studio thing. It's like, man, things have gotten really bad out here. Holy crap. Luckily for this city that I'm in, it's not as bad, but man, we kind of have to drive out for everything, and that's the only sucky part. But rent here is high too. Things are always high here too, and then you get people that are defending it, knowing it's bad, but that's the weirdest thing with people. They'll know it's bad, but they'll defend it anyway, just because I don't even know it's being a contrarian. I think they genuinely believe that's the right position to have, even though there's no reason to have it. Like it comes with a did Disney and Marvel. They have that a lot. It's like they know that Marvel's decision with like certain characters is bad, but it's because it's Marvel, the brand. They love it so much they gave them a whole bunch of memories. They just have to defend it on any level, even if they don't agree with the decision themselves. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think with a lot of it, it's sort of like a pride issue where if you operated one way for your entire life, thinking like this was the right way to go about it,
Yeah. Mhm.
and all of a sudden this evidence starts stacking up that your entire worldview was wrong, you either have to like basically have your entire worldview crumble before your eyes and admit that you were wrong, or just live in denial. And I think a lot of people, whether it is on cultural issues or political issues or anything, they would rather just live in denial and run out the clock until they die than admit that, like, oh, I spent decades, like, basically being an apologist or an activist for a worldview that was totally warped and dysfunctional.
Because I remember you were before we had talked on this show. You were on. Was it you? You were on Lord Raptor Jesus' channel, right?
Yeah, earlier this year.
Yeah, you were with Edwin too. So because I don't think we talked about this when your first appearance. Because I think you mentioned that there's this part of indie comic books that's an issue. I'm pretty sure you were talking about Comics Gate because I watched that show you were on, and I agree with everything you had said. I was like, this is getting to a point where is this even about comic books anymore, or are people just enjoying just shit talking each other? I'm cool with like some trash talk every once in a while. Like I think guys do that, but
Right.
when it gets to be on the level that Ethan and a lot of the people that around him are doing, it's like this isn't good at all. This is just actually just a net negative. Like how much does it go, or how far does it extend to a point where it's just a net negative for everyone involved? Because it becomes to be like that eye roll thing, like you notice something bad's gonna happen, you're like, fuck me, it's happening again. So my thing is, what would because he tells a different story, but how did you interact with Ethan originally? Because remember he was fired from DC. That's what he says, right? Or for a certain reason, for being a conservative, which probably knows full of crap, honestly. And then you came to him with the proposition of something, and then he didn't fulfill it on time, which would be a
Actually,
great
no, I did
thing.
not. I actually did not come to him back in the day. He actually came to me and
Yeah,
said we should
that's what he
work
said. He said
together.
you came to him after he got fired from DC, trying to work on a
Uh,
book.
no, I did not come to him. It's literally the opposite way around.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, back in the day in like 2017, 2018, I had been covering comic books way before that on my blog, going back to like
Okay.
2010, 2009. But eventually I got into YouTube and I wanted to reach a larger audience. And
Mhm.
so it was through that then that he ultimately followed me on Twitter. And then, back in the day was DMing me and saying like, hey, you're doing like a bunch of really great things. I can't publicly support you. This is like really early on,
Damn.
but I essentially support what you're doing and what you're saying
Mhm.
about the industry is like off kilter. It's off track. And it really does need to get on track because bad things are over the horizon if they keep going this way with they were just switching up the genders and the races of every
Yeah.
character for no apparent reason. And then at one point in time, there was the Hydra Cap situation and all of that. And so that's
People
how
on the
I,
internet don't know when that was first revealed, when he's like, Hail Hydra. I feel like the internet was on fire. Good
and
Lord.
the funny thing is I would, if it was just like a couple issues
Right.
and then
Yeah.
he changed back, like in my mind, that wouldn't have been a big deal. It was the extended nature of it. Plus, they were essentially saying they wanted it like the ramifications of the storyline
Like Secret Empire. Yeah. Where was that one?
negated all sorts of things before it. And it was similar to what they did to Spider-Man in terms of like way back in the day where they, with the Clone Saga, where they were trying, and then ultimately like One More Day, where they were doing these things that
Sins Past. That one was whoo.
Yeah, Sins Past.
You got Sins Past, then One More Day. That's crazy, man. We were in the dog shit.
Yeah, so when you do something where you're like taking the knees out from people that have been reading your books for decades and saying like, no, actually, this character that you've been reading for years, all those storylines, he was secretly evil or whatever, or it wasn't the guy that you thought it was. And this, people get really angry at that. Same thing with Superior Spider-Man. Dan Slott said back in the day that he didn't even want to bring Peter Parker back.
I remember this.
But the movie that had been coming out at the time, essentially the powers that be wanted to make sure Peter was in the comics at the same time as the movie, the one with like Rhino and whatever. So if Dan Slott had his way, he would have never even brought back Peter Parker after like a year plus of Superior Spider-Man. And my thing always was that when I was a kid, 7th and 8th grade are very like formative years. And a year is a long time to a kid, a year and a half, 2 years, like, because your idea of time is completely different because you haven't experienced more time.
Yeah.
So if you took out Peter Parker for a year and a half, 2 years, and that was who a 7th and 8th grade kid was reading, that was his Spider-Man, in my mind, that's just sad and wrong that you would actually do that in the main book. It's not even like an alternate universe thing. You're doing it in the main canon, the 616 or whatever they call it now. They did away with 616 and it was like Marvel Prime or whatever the heck it was. So they were just completely on multiple levels just doing like long-term damage to these characters, which I believe they were doing it on purpose if you listen to Dan Slott and people like him. Anyway, going back to your original point, so that was how I was introduced to quote unquote Comicsgate and Ethan and some of the pros that ultimately left DC and Marvel.
So did you have a working relationship with them, like Graham, John, Shane, any of those guys at all? No,
I never had. I mean, at the time I was working at a newspaper, so I was in Washington, D.C. at the time, and I had my full-time job and I was doing that. So I on the side, I was basically doing YouTube, and for all sorts of reasons, my wife was in school and doing stuff, and she was like 400 miles away. So I had a lot of time on my hand. When I got off of work, it was like if I wasn't driving 400 miles to see my wife, I was like, well, I might as well blog about comic books, or I might as well do a video about Marvel because I gotta be productive somehow, and whatever. So that's how I met these guys, and it was really just through commentary. And then obviously, they got into indie comics and doing the crowdfunding thing and all of that. And ultimately, where we split ways philosophically on a business level was, again, you can see the track. Now we have hindsight. We could look back and be like, okay, when there are crowdfunded books that are 3, 4, 5, 6 years late, that's not good. That's objectively, I don't know, like you can't really defend that, but I guess apparently there are people that do defend those things. So in my mind, it got to a point where just talking about basic common sense business practices and applying them to the crowdfunding sphere made you a bad person. Why? Because there were, other creators that were guilty of these infractions against the backers, against the readers, against the customers, whatever you want to call them. And so myself, I was always coming from things as a customer advocate. That's where I started. I wasn't doing books initially. Right. I've always been a writer, but I wasn't doing indie books. But when I made that transition to a creator, making, Soul Finder and working with Iconic Comics and guys like Tim and Mark, that's where it was like, okay, we got to get our stuff together and we need to be on point in terms of being a man of your word. If your yes is yes and your no is no, and if you say I'm going to deliver this book on this date, you better get within the ballpark of that date. And if you don't, people will cut you slack, especially if you're a first-time creator.
Yeah.
And there are all sorts of things that happen. People get sick,
Yeah.
a family
I
member.
think people are more than fair enough. Like if you're like a month to 2 weeks, that because people know things happen. Like post office
Right.
makes mistakes. Printing the book could be like ended up being late. Getting the books to your house, you could be late. I think people are generally understandable with things that make actual sense. But when it starts getting into territory of like 2-3 years, I want people to
Right.
really understand this. There's 24 hours in a day. Okay. And when people say our excuses for the number one is I have kids. There are people with more than 5 kids that manage to work. Both of them work and bills are paid and they have things done. They
Right.
have kids. This whole argument of like they have kids, so that just gives you an excuse to not fulfill your responsibilities is actually just super nonsensical. And I think highly disrespectful in general. It's like, hey, I can't do my obligation that I said I was going to do because I have kids. Some don't even have kids. Some are just literally not doing it because the argument they give now is it'll take more quality and the book will be done in a higher fashion if you just give me more time. When in reality, I don't know if you actually know this. There are things because I don't know how much media you've consumed recently, dude. But you know, like when studios will announce that, hey, this project has gotten pushed back a couple years, couple months. I don't know any time that's happened where it came out better than what it was. It's not been a thing for me. When things get pushed back like that, it's usually because something happened in the production phase that
Right.
caused it to get pushed back. But the quality is relatively the same or not. It's pretty negligent. So this excuse of like kids and more quality is just nonsense. Like the thing that you just said, being a person of your word, people get literally so angry at Amazon if they don't deliver their prime item that they ordered in a day. So this
Right.
notion that someone is okay to wait for things for 5 years is such bullshit. I think what ended up happening, because this is something I wanted to talk about. I think some of these people, just in my opinion, not the artists, I think some of the fans have never been Compa fans in their entire life. I think that same period when you started talking about it, they became fans of what was being talked about rather than being actual fans themselves because no comic book has ever really functioned like that. I'm like, yeah, there's been delays in Marvel and DC. That's always happened. Like even Image when it first formed had delays. Delays are the problem. But this common theme amongst this group where if we just take much longer to get it done, then it's just better. What is it to prove that? There's no logic to prove that. It's just it's what a politician says. It's just deflection. You know, politicians do that. Hey, are you working on this? Well, you know, my grandma. Okay, that's just, you know, that's just deflection. I just don't get it amongst these people. And they'll, even when they get the books, let's say they even do, they don't read them. They don't talk about them. We know
Yeah,
they
and
don't.
that's the thing is like I don't have anything personally against other creators. They can do whatever they want, but at the same time, it always kind of bothered me
Mhm.
that how do I say it? People essentially wanted you to keep quiet if your commentary would put a spotlight on their shortcomings. And so it was one of those things where it's like, well, no, I mean, how do I say this? If I say a creator should be in the ballpark of getting their book out when on their self-determined timeline, especially when it's a creator that essentially brags about being a professional and being in the industry for years and possibly even decades, like you should actually again be a man of your word. Like if that bothers somebody, like maybe they, instead of trying to shut up the person that's just in my mind
Saying the
talking about
truth.
common sense things, like take that as like, yeah, I need to get my stuff together, dude. Like I need to do better. And again, same thing with me. Every single book that I put out, I try to be my own harshest critic in terms of how did I, work with Matt Weldon, and how did I work with the colorist, and how did I work with the printer,
Mhm.
and what did I do that I could do better this time around. And if people are like, Doug, it took you too long to get that book out or whatever, I need to look inside myself as the team, the guy who's managing the team of creators, and be like, how can I get the best out of everybody on my team? I did some. It's the same thing with the the NFL. The quarterback takes it on his shoulders when the
Right.
game is lost. If you're a good quarterback, you don't start throwing everybody and their mother under the bus and saying like, well, if it wasn't for
Yeah.
our center blowing his blocks
I
every
mean,
single time
yeah.
or
Patrick
whatever.
Mahomes could have said that about Travis Kelsey when he dropped that ball last week.
Yeah. So the thing
He
to
didn't.
do is,
Yeah.
if it's on national television and everybody sees, or if it's on YouTube, or if it's
Mhm.
on Indiegogo or Kickstarter or whatever, and everybody sees, people know the truth. And again, it's just, in my mind, it's healthier to spend the bulk of your time trying to figure out where you can be a better creator and where you have elements of your personality or your business model that can be refined and become better over time.
Yeah. And for me, from looking at everything in history, like you had said, from what I kind of found out, this has kind of always been I would say the stigma surrounding this group. It's always been drama and this notion that, this movement was supposed to change the culture with comic books. It's like that was never going to be the thing because these people, when you work for someone, you're kind of like you said, you have to work with someone else and get things done on time. When you're by yourself, well, you're your own harshest critic. You yourself would have to work on doing everything. And I think that's the reality check they all got when it's like, hey, I pass my inks off to someone else, and that person does the lettering, and then that person does the printing, and that person puts it on the comic book shop. Yeah, all that's gone if you're not there. Now you're doing that by yourself. And so I imagine most grown adults would go, hey, I have to get my work done. I'm not going to stream today. I got to get my stuff done. Like, I imagine, there's days you're not doing certain things. You got to get that thing done. And that thing's going to take 8-9 hours. I know you talk about your books. I imagine there's days you're spending working on your book that might take almost the entire day because you have to get it done, So this notion that he goes, I have to stream to get things done. It's like, no, you don't. I imagine you can take a day off to get things done.
Yeah, it's just about like allocating your resources and your time. And in my mind, you can see who allocates those resources properly and those who don't. And we could always make excuses about, oh, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, the backers ultimately don't care about your sob stories. And I would
Yeah.
even argue that, bringing your personal life into it. So it's like, say someone says like, I have whatever, a child, I have
Yeah.
anything. It's like every one of your backers, every one of your readers, they have something going on in their life that they can use as a crutch or an excuse for why they didn't do, X, Y, and Z too. And
Right.
it's like, in my mind, I try very hard not to bring my personal life and any sort of personal problems or family issues or
Yeah.
anything into the online, because it's like, I've just found that most people, they don't care. They just want the book that they ordered. Like, they might
Yeah.
have a certain amount of sympathy for you for a certain amount of time, but at some point in time, it's just like, hey, I got my own problems, dude. You're talking about, I got inflation. I'm working 2 jobs here to try and pay rent. My rent just went up like $500 this year or whatever it is. I go to the grocery store. I was paying $25 for this last year. Now I'm paying $50 for it,
Right.
like a couple years later. Like, I don't care. I put down like, the highest tier on your crowdfunding campaign or whatever it was, the 60, 70, $80. And I don't have it like years later. So where is it? And I literally don't care about the excuses. And I'm saying this as someone, as a backer, who, there's books that I backed in around 2019, 2020. I said this recently on my channel. I still don't have them. I try very hard not to go on Twitter and tag people and put them on public blast and be like, hey, here's my backer number. How come I don't have my book and it's 5 years later? Like, I try not to do that sort of stuff, but it's just like that. Sometimes people like almost think, they're like, that's the other thing, is if you're a creator and you're talking about this, they're like, you can't say that. And it's just like, but I'm also a backer. And I was a backer before I was like in the indie space or whatever. And so I feel like I have every right to talk about an issue that affects my own wallet, because I backed some of these people and they're not giving me the thing that they said that they would give me. And the communication is absolutely atrocious, where it's like, you're not even updating your own backers on a regular basis, a consistent, because again, people are very understanding if you have clear and concise communication with them and say, here is what's going on, and here's how I'm going to remedy the problem, and here's what you can expect going forward. And then they could compare your words with your actual deeds and see if they're in alignment or not. And so again, within the creator sphere, they like to do this thing where it's like, we're all a community and you can't say anything that hurts the community. But in my mind, it's like, if you are engaging in behaviors that are essentially, for all intents and purposes, anti-backer, anti-reader, and you're actually, your behavior is going to have a ripple effect in a negative way on other creators. Not all of us have DC or Marvel or Image or whatever it is on our resume in a built-in following or whatever. If it's like the little guy who's just
cheat code, as they call it. Yeah, it's a cheat code to have a Marvel and DC credit on your backing. People will like, hey, he made something I enjoyed. He's going to get automatic followers just because of that. Actually,
well, it's like if the guys who come from the mainstream industry that say they're like the creme de la creme or whatever of delivering, if they don't do it. Now, imagine the backers who are on the fence. If, I've been out of comics for, 10 years, I'm debating getting back into it. What do I think of crowdfunding? And they start bopping around and looking into it, and they see like a bad reputation across the board. Then they're like, you know what? There's a million things that are vying for my attention on a daily basis, and everything's more expensive these days. Why am I going to take a chance on someone when I can see that
it has a ripple effect? A lot of people don't understand this. There's a ripple effect and a trickle effect that happens with this. So if you can't trust the people that are considered pros, just common sense, like you said, why would you trust someone that has no experience at all? And I've seen people with essentially no experience, like when you got into it, like yourself and other people that I've had on the channel, I've talked about this, where they've did it on actually even less money than is given to some of these other mainstream pros. It's like, how is the smaller person with no experience at all able to do this, get the book out on time when you can't? And then, because they're the biggest draws, as that's not something I want to say, but that's kind of what it is. They're kind of the biggest draws for a lot of people, and the easiest casual eyes that'll be on the product that comes out, or at least when it comes to like crowdfunding. If they're not delivering, like you said, that hurts everybody else. That's kind of what a trickle effect does. Everyone else gets blamed for what they're doing, even though that doesn't affect you at all. You even did jack shit, but that doesn't matter to that person. They feel like they got burned once, and once you burn that person once, it's over. Or you get the thing where now these books cost a lot of money, right? It's literally like $30 plus sometimes. So it'd be like $40 with tax, all considered. It's $40 a book. You back like 3 books, that's like what, $120 right there. And you don't see these books for like 5 years. You're going to go, why would I do this ever again? And by the time you get the book, you're probably not going to care. It's not the same level of enthusiasm you had when you first were going to get it, and it's just, I don't know. It makes everybody look bad when you have this amount of late books. It just does. Like, man, I remember I backed something, I think this year or last year. No sign of it getting done anytime soon. Now I kind of did it out of a joke. I did. But, it's like, man, this person I know is doing bullshit instead of getting this book done. But
well, here's an example. I just got my Transformers compendium today, the Skybound. I backed on Kickstarter. These were not cheap by any means.
I know. They're a lot of money.
Before that, I got the G.I. Joe books or whatever.
Oh, you have those? I got I have that too. I have not that version. I have Compendium 1 and 2. And I had the G.I. Joe one over there. Those things are huge. I love them.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like they said, we're going to get you these books by this, this is essentially, they gave a ballpark or whatever it was.
I remember.
And I got it. And so it's like, I spent a lot of money. So it's like, okay, I can trust these guys now. When Skybound comes out with a crowdfunding campaign, they're going to do it right. But if they screwed me over, I would not in the future be getting backing Skybound. And if they kept screwing me over again, if I saw that they ended up having a track record and that, again, how do I say? I'm trying to be like nice about it. In the Army, they say like crap rolls downhill or whatever. And so when the people at the top, if they can't do it, eventually, like we were saying earlier, it's going to have effect on the smaller creators, because if Skybound can't get their act together, then why are you going to trust this guy? It's his first time out the gates and nobody knows who he is,
Yeah.
but maybe the art is like looking okay, and you're like, oh, he has
And
promise. Do
people
I want
did
to do
that.
this?
Like what people also did was that they did trust some other random people and they did give them a second chance. Even those people didn't do it. There was a guy that did have a problem and talked about it on one of those streams. I'm not gonna mention his name because I know someone that likes this guy and is friends with him. But even that guy who was arguing with the person that we mentioned earlier, he himself has a late book. And it's like, hey man, I get what you're saying. I agree with you. But it's like one of those like wolf in sheep's clothing. You're calling out someone else, and you yourself has a 5-year late book, probably going on 7 years now. This happened like last year. So it's like, man, even people that are calling other people out, they have late books too. I'm pretty sure you saw the one earlier this year with that one guy where he announced on his Indiegogo he can't do the book anymore because he ran out of money. He thought he was going to be able to make a living off doing this, and it's like,
Right.
you thought you were going to make a living off this? I'd be honest with you guys, I truly did forget his name. I did a video about this person, but he's like, hey, I ran out of money. I can't do it anymore. What do you mean you ran out of money? What? What? What do you what do you mean you ran out of money? And what do you mean you thought you could make a living off of this? Being honest here, like you said, things about backers don't care about. I don't want to hear as a backer, you're paying your light bill with my money. Even if
Right.
you are, I would rather you not say anything. I think that's another thing you brought up that's really, really a good point too. Why are people so personal about things? Like back in the day, there used to be this thing of like, don't say anything, like if you know kind of thing. You don't need to say these things. People say too much these days. When you're telling people you're living off their money instead of getting their book done, people are also going to probably not back you because no one wants to hear that. I don't want to hear some random old guy who could have a job, like you said earlier, when we're talking about homeless people. You could have a job, you yourself are paying your light bill with my money. That money I have and I gave you supposed to be for that book, not your light bill, not your internet bill. If you need to get money for that, go get a job. Sorry, that's just how life works. Sorry, all of us have to do it. How do you think we supported your book? With our fucking blue collar job we have. That's how we supported your book. This notion that is brought up now where I have to have money so I can live off of, get a job. But I can't do, doesn't matter. Other people do it. Like so many excuses, like you said, that are given to these people. Like I remember that, and that was so cringe. Hearing this grown 40-year-old guy talk about I wanted to live off this money instead of going and getting a job, which he ended up did getting a job, but he can't get the book out because he squandered all the money. So all these other backers are screwed now.
And
And
to
they
me,
trust this other guy that told him he was legit. So
that's why in my mind this idea of this sort of like community of
oh yeah,
creators,
yeah.
it breaks down and falls apart because you can't actually have an honest conversation about things when you see somebody who has complete contempt for their own backers and their readers and their customers and all of this sort of stuff, and almost treating their own backers like a piggy bank, like they're entitled to your money. And then it's like someone like me, if I see that, I'm again, those sorts of things will boomerang back on me. If enough people are essentially scoffing and turning their nose up at their own readers, it's the same thing as like you have like a pool and someone craps in the pool or or pisses in it or whatever. It contaminates the entire pool. It only takes a little bit
Yeah.
of a bad substance to leave a bad taste or bacteria in the entire pool that hurts people and makes them sick and makes the ecosystem sicker, whatever metaphor you want to use. And so in my mind, you have to be able to have an honest conversation about the business practices and blueprints that creators are using. Because again, if they're metaphorically crapping in the pool, everybody's going to be affected by it.
Yeah. And the other thing to bring up with that is I'm pretty sure because everyone's highlighted this. Why are numbers down? Could be for a lot of reasons. Well, I also thought about this yesterday when I was at work. Maybe people do have less money. Like last year at my job, or earlier this year and last year was very busy. Like we were getting just absolutely just fisted constantly every day. This year, things have kind of been trickling down a little bit. And I've noticed maybe people do have less money. And the thing is, if people have less money, well, entertainment automatically gets a cut because people go, well, I don't need this. That's just how it works. They go, that was extra. And indie comic books, I think you mentioned this on your first appearance, it's like a niche of a niche. So if people already get like a pull list from Marvel, DC, Image, well, what do you think gets cut? The extra book that they're already paying $30 for.
Right.
That's automatically going to get cut. Then if there's less trust in the community, like you mentioned, why would you back? or people just aren't as interested. Interest fades so fast these days. Like I mentioned before the stream started, like interest fades so fast. Like one day someone is all in on something, and like in the next 24 hours, they're just completely just out of it, you know? And keep in mind, there's not a fast enough turnaround with indie comic books to keep someone invested in general. So the people that do have a big audience, or people like in your guys' camp, indie iconic comics, they had to earn that through constantly working and putting things out on time to keep that general interest. I heard Common America is doing very well in Japan. I got those OVAs; those look really cool. Actually, hopefully, Soul Finder ends up getting animated one day. That'd be pretty cool, honestly.
That's on my long-term agenda, and I've actually been. I basically came up with like a 5-year plan to financially set the stage, or create the foundation to be able to do kind of anything that I want. And so one of the reasons why I've been more quiet this year is because most of my time, we were talking about whether streaming or not and allocation of resources. It's been off the grid trying to do what I need to do to be able to do animation down the line. And again, indie comics, it's like you're constantly running uphill. And if somebody essentially pours water on the hill and then freezes it over, now I have to ice skate up the hill because somebody at the top of the hill is, just making it even more difficult than it already was to begin with. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Whatever obstacles come my way, in my mind, I'm going to find a way to accomplish my goals. Like, you're not going to stop me from accomplishing my goals. But on another level, it kind of irritates me when I have to go from running uphill to ice skating uphill or something along those lines. And I should be able to, and that's the thing is, you feel bad. Like, for me, it's always like, I'm going to find a way to get this done. I don't care what stands in my way. But I feel bad for the people, especially like younger creators, that maybe they don't quite have that mentality yet, or they're just starting out and they didn't have whatever support in their life to like get that ingrained in their head that like you need to just adapt and overcome to anything that gets in your way. And it's just like sad that it has to be that way, where, again, that's the other thing is like people will deny that there are consequences, third and fourth order consequences for their actions that are having an effect on other people that are in their irresponsibility blast radius. And you're just like, you only care about yourself, dude. Like, and that's the thing is like, especially if you came from the industry, like Image, or say it was like Jim Lee or somebody. Jim Lee can do anything he wants. He could slap people across the faces at, a con, and there would still be people that would buy his books, whatever. And it's like, not everybody has that built-in where it's like, loyalty, no matter what you do, you're always going to have a solid base of people that will allow you to continue to make a living or whatever. And it's not that way for a lot of, especially young people that, have this dream of becoming an indie comic creator and starting their own series.
The same thing also happens in like the novel community, because I know you have a lot of books right there on your shelf. There's people in the indie novel community have the same problem. It's like, people need to understand this. I don't think people actually get this as a concept, dude. It's so hard to get people invested in anything you're doing. Like, guys, people say it's easy to turn on a camera, turn on the microphone, and start talking. Yeah, I guess you could say that's easy, but getting people interested in what you're saying is very hard. That's also kind of dangerous, as we know what happens when you start speaking about things in a certain way. What's crazy is last time we had a show, Charlie Kirk was still alive. That's crazy. Think about it at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, marketing your book is completely different than actually when you're an indie creator, you have to wear so many different hats. And I mean, so it's like on some level, the internet has allowed people to actually escape, publishers and, be your own self-publisher or whatever. But on another level, like it used to be like, if you got a publisher, they would take care of all that stuff. They would get you the radio interviews. They would get you on television. They would make sure like, your name got out. You didn't have to worry about that. You were just the author or whatever it was. And so now it's like, okay, well, now anybody could just do their own thing and the internet is available, but not everybody has the ability to speak off the cuff extemporaneously about all sorts of subjects in an entertaining way, in a way with substance, in a way that doesn't like burn their own house down, because sometimes creators are their own worst enemy. And actually going back to the creators that are not getting their books out, or they're they're turning against their own backers. It's like you see these people in the comments section where it's like, hey, I want a refund. It's been like years and years. And then they start basically giving the middle finger to their own readers and burning their house down. It's like you're just pouring gasoline on it. This is fine, that meme or whatever. And it's like, so again, it takes many different hats in order to have a successful indie comic, and you have to be 100% committed to it in the long run, because if you're not committed to it, people know if you're not committed. It comes through on the screen every day. If this guy is just like, half-assing it or whatever and going through the motions, and when people lost the desire and the drive to do it, and now they got themselves painted into a corner, and they're like, oh crap, I quit my job or I did whatever, and now I got to figure out how to make this work. And so I never want to be that guy where you can see that the spark has left his eyes and he's just like dead inside and just trying to like make it work. I want to make sure, I'm going to Tokyo, I got energy, and I'm, constantly pushing outward and letting people know like, hey, this guy's getting kind of old, but he's got the energy of like a 20-year-old. Like, what is going on with this guy? Because those are the sorts of things where people want to back a winner. And if they see that you're like, you got this spark and drive and fire inside you to get your book out and you believe in it, and they check it out and you got decent art and decent reviews and all this, then that's how you start building momentum. And momentum sort of begets momentum.
Are you saying it's not built by having streams where you're shitting on someone for 8 hours a day?
That's the other thing. And so these guys get themselves into a jam, and then they decide, oh, you know what? I'm going to tear somebody down to try and build myself up. If I push you down, I'm going to look taller suddenly.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that with, guys like Eric, not people going after Eric July on a daily basis, basically like 24 hours a day. And you're like
if Eric July didn't exist, they would have nothing. They would just legit have nothing. Crazy.
Well, it sort of becomes like, okay, they always couch it like, oh, I'm just giving like honest criticism. I want the best for this guy. But you're like, no, that's what mean people do. That's what they say when they actually have a vendetta against somebody. Like, it's one thing if it's like here and there, it makes sense organically to be like, he could have done this better, could have done that better. Okay, you said your piece. But now you're doing it day after day after day after day. And I can see that you're going out of your way to like pick apart every little thing that this guy does. And it tells me that you have an issue with him. And as I've said on Twitter, when it becomes this almost obsessive compulsive need to tear somebody down, it's really that there's something about their inner drive and their personal success that is shining a spotlight on a dark part in your soul that you don't want to integrate in properly into your personality. Something that is inside of you that you don't want to confront. So you have all sorts of insecurities that you're projecting onto Eric and saying that he has all these problems. And maybe he does to a certain extent, but you do too. Most people don't want to acknowledge that they can be mean, they can be vindictive, they can be manipulative, they can get angry and say things that it's like, until you actually confront the parts of yourself that need work, a lot of times these guys, when they're faced with that, they project it outward. And so I believe that a lot of the stuff that's going on with Eric in terms of the 24/7 coverage of every little thing he does and tweets is a lot of projection.
Yeah. What's the saying? Projection through confession kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. It's if someone were like doing that and they did it like once or like twice, you'd be like, all right, it's just kind of whatever. But it's every day. What could this person be doing so bad every day that you need to actually cover? That's crazy. And then they use the argument like, but they did it for Marvel and DC. Okay, a company, a massive corporation doing things is much different than some random guy on YouTube doing something. I don't even know how those are even comparable. That's where you talk about, it gets into this almost disingenuous nature where they're trying to make two comparisons that are so completely non-existent that it justifies in their brain. Disney lying and Marvel lying is way different than some random butt fuck YouTuber somewhere. It just is. The impact that Marvel and Disney have is much different than people like me and you over have. It just is, you know?
And that's the thing, is a lot of these guys started out talking about these billion-dollar plus corporations and what they're doing and their tentacles and what, how they're ruining the culture and this and that, the other thing. But then they switched, and now you're going after indie creators. Now you're going after the little guy. And it's already hard enough, as we've discussed, to make a living in indie comics and start a business. Somebody like Eric July with the Ripperverse, or even Iconic Comics. We talked about how hard it is not to, first to get momentum, but then to keep it going, and then to keep people's interest over time in a cultural and economic environment where inflation keeps going up. People have less disposable income, and so it's like, so you went from going after Disney and all these big studios in Hollywood, and now you've directed the vast majority of your fire on indie creators that are, some of them even are probably living paycheck to paycheck trying to make their dream a reality. And you're trying to essentially destroy them. And so you're like, what's going on here? Something is amiss. Something is not quite right.
Yeah, it also gets into this other weird territory where they assume drama equals more sales. No, that just only equals more views on your content. I truly don't believe that you can convert most of those drama farming lovers into actual comic book backers and readers. Like, the most you'll get is a backer, but there's no guarantee they're going to read that book. I think people are only kind of here, a lot of them, for like drama. That's it.
Right.
They're not actually, I believe, like I said earlier, I believe they were never comic book fans. They're just here because they liked certain people talking about this stuff than being actual. You'll ask them, because they'll say, like, I don't like this thing. Do you read that book? No. They'll even say they don't even like comic books. What are you here for then? You don't even like comic. What are you doing? It's just these kind of, what do they call them? Fair weather fans, tourists, as they say. God, man, it's crazy how potentially drama farming is much more profitable than making the books, which I don't think it really is, but you never know. Anthony had a question for you, which was, Doug, do you have a favorite underrated superhero for Marvel that you wish they did more comics for?
When I was a kid, I always thought Deathlock was really cool, and I always wanted them to make a movie that was, like maybe like James Cameron, like he went from T2 to Deathlock or something along those lines. I was just like, if that period of time, like what is it, like early 90s? I don't know if it was like 1993 or somewhere around then. And you had like James Cameron shift from the Terminator franchise to Deathlock. I think he would have made like a really cool Deathlock.
The other one he had, which was, Doug, are there any good crowdfunded comic books now for vampires that blend Dracula and 30 Days of Night and werewolves that are super intelligent?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I actually do want to do a Soul Finder story that involves vampires at some point in time. I don't know if I should say that. There's a couple stories that I have in mind, and I always thought vampires would suit Soul Finder quite nicely. So, but the thing is, you don't want to do like the cliche and it's just like every other vampire tale or whatever. So I got to make sure that I find a way to put like an interesting spin on an old concept.
And the last few things I'll ask you, man, before we head out, which is the first thing, which is, do you have anything planned coming up that you would like to let the audience know about?
Yeah, so I mean, so Soul Finder silent service is on the way. So here's a little of like original art from Matt Weldon from the book. So he's inking everything right now, and Rodrigo Aviles is coloring it. And they were the same guys, obviously, that did Soul Finder Tunnel Hounds. So Soul Finder Volume 5 is on the way. I finished the script to Soul Finder Volume 6. Matt is, if all things go well, we'll start that as soon as he's done with Volume 5. But the problem is when you have talented creators working with you, they have all sorts of other professional opportunities that keep coming up. It's like I used to be working with Jeff Spokes, and then Jeff Spokes was hired by DC. And so
They just
It's like
scooped up your talent. They're scooping up your talent now.
well, it's like you're very happy for them on some level because you want their star to continue to rise or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's like then all of a sudden their time shrinks, and sometimes they're two exclusive contracts. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff's, at least for a certain period of time, was like he was exclusive to DC and nothing else.
Yeah.
So it's just like suddenly, and then Matt last year and Rodrigo were doing stuff with Udon. He had Final Fight going on, so it's like I'm like in Matt's corner cheering him on multiple levels, but then there's always that part of me that's like, oh no, is he gonna leave me for like, to do like Final Fight and Street Fighter and who knows, like Teenage Mutant, who knows what he's gonna get down the line. And you're just like, I hope he doesn't like, become like too big of a star. And he's like, all of a sudden I'm like the little guy or what, he's like, sorry, Doug, I gotta leave you behind or something like that. But anyway, Matt and Rodrigo are hard at work, and everything they've turned in thus far has been really awesome. And I just can't wait to get Soul Finder Volume 5 out. But I encourage people to go to Iconic Comics, check out all the different stuff. We got Seraphim plushies. Seraphim will be featured in Soul Finder Volume 6 quite heavily. So we have all sorts of merchandise, all sorts of stuff. Check out all the creators. If I'm not up your alley, then Tim or Mark or any of the other guys, Eric Canetti, maybe they'll be up your alley.
When are we ever getting a Soul Fighter Common America crossover? Big titties meets a guy that's trying to take down other people.
Well, there was a little bit in the Black Hops crossover a few years ago. So on a minor level, Father Redder did meet Carly a few years ago. So there is, and that should be on the Iconic website as well. But that was Black Hops, X Common America, X Soul Finder. So that did happen. But in terms of like a broader one, it was one of those things where Mark and Tim know that they got a blank check because they helped me out so much early on in terms of establishing Soul Finder and getting it off the ground, that if an organic story comes up and they feel that my characters fit with theirs, then they can go for it. And I'm happy to see them do that because they're an outstanding creative team.
They are. They put their nose to the grindstone, as they say, and get their work done. And that's how you get the benefits of all of what they have and what you guys have there at Iconic Comics. Is you put your nose to the grindstone, you get things done, and then you can kind of get they reap the benefits of your hard work. Pretty sure you wouldn't be hardworking if you were streaming 10 hours a day. Pretty sure that's not how you get hard work done.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is Iconic Comics shows that you do not need to stream. Everybody has their own path to achieving their goals. But it always bothered me when people tried to say you have to have a YouTube channel. You need 10,000 subscribers in order to succeed. It's like, no, you don't. The world is a very complex place, and there's an infinite number of roads to achieve your goals. They're out there, and you just need to figure out how to connect the dots and then be able to like get there. But to tell people you need a YouTube channel, you need to stream X number of hours per week, you need X number of subscribers. No, you don't. In fact, you barely even need to be on YouTube. And there is still out there in the cosmos an answer to how you can achieve your goals. It's just you need to rack your brain and pray and figure out exactly how you are going to get there.
Yep. And the last thing I'll ask you, man, is do you have any shout outs you want to give to anyone in particular, and anything else you want to say before we head out?
Like I said, just go to Iconic Comics. There's all sorts of creators and writers and artists working really hard to give people really fun, creative tales, and they're all at Iconic Comics.
Yeah, it was great having you back on again, man, for a second appearance. Always good talking to you. Hopefully you have a great holiday season coming up, because Christmas is coming up and New Year's. Oh God, it's gonna be so busy. No more traveling. You done for the year?
I will not be traveling after Tokyo. I just wanted to chill out and read my Transformers compendium with some hot chocolate next to the tree. So I won't be traveling. But if you are traveling, safe travels and have a great time with family, friends.
Oh, I'm on EBT. We don't travel. I'm joking, guys. There's no EBT in here. Apparently, I make too much for that kind of thing. And I actually just laughed at the lady's face. She got mad at me. But I was like, I thought that was a joke. But, I did buy the Transformers Compendium. I bought the second one that just came out recently. I need to get the G.I. Joe one, too, because I love compendiums, man. It's just, they come out way faster than omnibuses. And, man, the glossy paper, I love it all. Man, I can't wait to dig in, get a chance to read it. Good Lord. I know they had the Daniel Warren Johnson covers. Those are the ones that I got when they put them out. I got the Daniel Warren Johnson covers, and I know he's went a little crazy with this ice posting recently. Holy crap, what a crazy person. Yep. That's how you feel. That's how you realize some of these guys are absolutely insane. That's why I got to separate the art from the artist. I always do. Because if I combined them both, I would just explode. My brain would just fry, actually, But
yeah, it's one of those things where in my mind, I always try to go to you can disagree with someone without being disagreeable. So I know not everyone's going to agree with my politics, but I don't want to go out of my way to like say things that I don't know. In my mind, it's just you're shooting yourself in your foot. If you like, you can still get your point across without like essentially burning down the entire digital landscape or social media landscape with anybody that disagrees with you. So it's just like, yeah, I know not everyone's going to share my worldview, but like, why are you going to go out of your way to just like essentially take a dump on people? It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and that's the matter. He did it too. He used the whole "picture's worth 1,000 words" kind of thing, and it's like, dude, you got a lot of fans from your current Transformer run. Why do this? But in their minds, because if they speak that certain way, they're not going to get punished because the company that hires them agrees with them. That's why you never see these guys get punished, guys. It's because if you have the politics they agree with, you're safe. So I know if I said certain things about certain people and certain companies, I'd be gone because I'm just insane. So that's how it kind of usually works here. But yeah, man, it was great having you on again, everyone. And hope you guys have a great day. And thank you guys for checking out this episode of the MSK Show. And we'll see you guys later.